start by saying all praises to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushua, Hashem, Alhamdulillah. Come on us, the apostles, and those great most honorable well. Shalom to the brothers, do the work, sincerity, and truth. Pushing this word to the four corners, man. I hope for elect. Lord willing, make it happen. So yeah, it's been out here doing the same thing. It's been an eventful week. We've really had in and around China, Taiwan, war drums beaten. You know, you had last week the so-called what's it called? Everyone hoping that the deal that Russia made to get the Ukrainian and the Russian grain out would would be a sign that things might start toning down. But then like 12 hours later, Russia just like blew up one of the ports anyway. So they were just like, well, still a target. So all the peace and love ain't really, it's not really coming to pass as people agree. But it's the same thing now with China. You got the rumor of Pelosi going to visit Taiwan, and then China basically saying like, hey, if you're looking to do it, we'll make some mess happen. So wars and rumors of wars, signs of the times. Matthew 24 and 3, it says, and as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And as far as for the end of the world, that's what? The end of the current age. The current age is what? The age of Esau, the age of Esau's war, where, it says in Revelation 20 that, that the dragon will be chained up for 1,000 years, but needs to be what? Loose for a little season. We're in the midst of that little season. This is basically what? Esau being allowed to have the run of his kingdom and have, he's been pushed out to do what? It said to deceive the nations again. So he's gone out and deceived the nations. He's fulfilled his purpose and he's built back up the desolate places that was spoken of as well. But then what the Lord says, they shall build up, but I will throw down. So the building up and the deception of the nations, Esau being able to build up, that's part of it. But then what as well? That will come into an end, that come into a close. It says, and Yahushua said, and Yahushua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am the anointed, and shall deceive many. And hey, the main key one is what? The image of what Caesar is. Caesar's the main image by which people have been deceived. If you go all around the earth, people will talk about people talk about, you go to India, there'll be Indian Jesus. You go to Africa, there'll be African Jesus. You go to indigenous parts of the world, everyone has a Jesus that looks like them. But that's BS. In reality, that image of Caesar, that's been propagated, that's been pushed around the world heavily. But that's the main one everyone looks to. Whenever you see when you see an Edomite, with that brown hair, the blue eyes, the beard and the long hair, they'll say, oh, that guy looks like Jesus. But they ain't say that about, just your average dark-skinned Jake with an afro and a beard. So these, they've pushed the image out, and that's been pushed into people's minds to where that's the default, that's the expectation. When you go into movies, that's what you'll see. It says what? And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, and the end's not yet. So wars and rumors of wars, these are the things that need to come to pass. And we're in the midst of that. We're in the midst of war. You've had the push for a while for so-called there being brought an end to war. But this, Exodus 15:3. The Lord Yahweh is a man of war. The Lord Yahweh is his name. So yeah, the Lord is a man of war, plain as day. Because that's the reason why you still have wars going down. You're basically going to have war. The end of the society culminating war. That third world war. Where you're going to have the world, all the different nations around the world coming together to basically participate in that one huge meat grinder in the Middle East. But that's essentially what's been spoken of, and that's what's going to be fulfilled. It says, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. So yeah, nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. You've had more or less all these different nations in conflict. Now you have it where a wide variety of nations around the world, they're now becoming disillusioned with Western Europe and America, with you know their influence, their control, their perception over the world, and they're now trying to establish their own thing. You know, differently, even trying to establish their own blocks of power, to where they can try and gain great influence that America, the EU, NATO has. And that means what? Conflict between the different nations. And what? It said famines and pestilence. Famines are a big thing. Famines are in thing. Now you've had a wide variety. The war in Ukraine is one of the big cruxes, but then as well, it's a matter of the war in Ukraine is one of the big cruxes. That's one of the big ways that's been pushed. But then as well, there's various other angles. Through inflation, that's impacted a lot of people as well. The prices in general have gone up for food as well. And you've also had shrinkflation kind of get into where people aren't noticing yet that things have become more expensive because you're getting less bang for buck. Even though you might still be paying £1 for something, you're getting, what would have been like 85p's worth or 75p's worth now. And these things, as time goes on, it's going to get worse. Because even the grain in Ukraine and Russia, if that doesn't get out, you're still going to have even greater kind of impact over time on the price of these things. Because people use grain, it's not just for bread or for any kind of wheat-based stuff. They also use it as feed, and it also lines up with a lot of vegetable oils as well. They're using a wide variety of products. And it means if they switch to a more expensive alternative, they're going to get prices of things balloon up way more. I remember I went into the shop. Man was selling Pringles for like £3. Yeah, I don't even think, I was like, I just noticed because I was looking at the crisp, I was like, because all of them are fried in oil, I was like, more likely than not, all of these now, the oil and the different ingredients, they're just gone up to where, hey, the prices started shooting up. And a lot of places are kind of preempting it, and they're just putting prices up anyway. They said that's what happened with the fuel prices. The fuel prices went up, but then they said they increased supply, but as they'd already been able to get the price up, they didn't lower the price. So even though, some of it's artificial, but that then means that, hey, as it goes up more in reality, it's going to get even more fucked. Says what? All these are the beginning of sorrow. Yeah, so these are the beginning of sorrow. These are the things that are going to have, people in straits. Because that's the thing. It's now is well, even before we get to hardship, the level of ease that people have, especially in the Western world, is at a level that's unprecedented. It's never before seen levels of ease. You have to consider it's like now you don't even have to have some sort of profession. You know, there's people that wake up, they play video games, then they get paid millions of pounds a month. Well, let's say millions of pounds a year just to do that. They can be sitting in their boxes on a t-shirt, playing video games, and they're making more money than like a whole different, more, maybe 75, 80, 85% of the population making more money than them. And that's a legendary level of ease. So then when they now have to switch to, okay, they're going to have to deal with legendary level of ease. They're going to have to deal with, hardships. They might, their income might be hurt. Their savings might get blown out. You had hella people where they had their savings in crypto, and now they've lost. They said they've lost like hella of their investments. There's people I know, there's a few people, 4 or 5, where they'll put in a fair bit of money into crypto, and it's they were doing well. They might have been up like 350%. But then the crash happened, and now they're just kind of sitting on it, and hey, the shit's just there. They didn't want to talk about it. They're in pain. But it's going to be even worse, even worse sorrows inflicted. That's why. There's going to be even worse sorrows inflicted. Because why? Because one, the level of ease they're used to ain't being supplied, and then 2, hardships are coming. And if you've been living at ease, you're not built up towards hardship. If someone grew up in a war-torn, someone grew up in Eastern Europe, there's a guy I was talking to from Eastern Europe, he mentioned, oh yeah, I remember like when I was a kid, like he made light of it. He made a joke about how when he was a kid, how NATO was coming through bombing him. I was like, fucking hell, yeah, man would have been like young when it happened. And it's kind of a thing you forget happened, but there's like what, someone from that kind of a background, they're then going to be more hardened to further things to come down the line, because they've seen worse things in the world. But then even more so, people that are completely disconnected from that, if they have to go through some hardships where they might be, not have electricity, they might have a limited amount of food, limited amount of water, they might not be able to go and do whatever. They might only be able to keep it together because they, 2 times a week they can go out and get blind drunk, or they might be able to go on holiday every few weeks and take the edge off. Without the capability to do these things, then they're basically losing these minds.
The pandemic kind of showed that, because that was like equalizer, kind of told people to the fact that they weren't they were barely functioning correctly, man. You had a lot of people commit suicides. They're still dealing with the after effects of fucking pandemic as well. They got all forms of like anxiety, possibly stress, all these different kind of things on them because of all the things they dealt with during that time period. And that's because we're basically in that time of the end, alright? Basically the Lord is going to make it where people are going to be, they're going to be, it says that men shall be as women. It's saying that like, so for men to become as women, we're talking about men all across the board, all this alpha shit that's going on right now. Andrew Tate ain't going to be running with his gun down the fucking hallway to save no one, alright? You're going to have men of the Lord with spiritual power. You're going to have Esau with his super soldiers out here. It's going to be a whole new war game, man. I forget who it was. I saw it yesterday on YouTube, actually. They said it was Tesla. They said, like, I should have seen. I knew I should have seen this, right? My brother had it on his page. Basically, it said, like, things that are coming in the next few years are going to be so scary beyond human belief, basically. Right? Okay. Yeah, I know
So, Isaiah 32:2. And a man shall be as an hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. So yeah, that's, my brother mentioned it. It's really going to be the men of the Lord that's talking about. It's not just general men. They're going to be on any kind of level. So things that are coming, it's that the expectations of people have, they're all going to be thrown in the bin. Because right now, a lot of people think their capability, what they're going to be able to do on the earth, they hold that in a certain level of esteem. They think, they're thinking like, oh, especially with America, with what guns. We had yesterday a new bill trying to get pushed through to make semi-automatic guns illegal, which I think would include pistols, so I don't even know. But as of now, considering what the Supreme Court's done, that's more likely than not to just get swatted, like they did with New York. But with the culture of America, there's a wide swathe of these Americans that think, that they put the humble place. Yeah, so there's a large amount of Americans where they believe those guns are going to be, they're going to be basically freedom rifles, man. They're going to be able to maintain their autonomy and their ability to do whatever they desire with that. But in reality, it's going to come to a point where that's all going to be, that illusion is going to be shown to be BS. Because in reality, there's a level of a level that the elites are going to have to bring down upon the people, where it's you're not really going to be able to continue with things as they are. And that's what they desire. They don't really want to have everything continuing. They're looking to establish something new, a new world order, you could say. And that's what the men of the Yahweh Hashem Yahushai are going to be the protection against. As far as if you're a woman, it says what? The women will be saved from childbearing. So they're going to need a man, to give that protection. You go something.
Might as well bring it out, but it's basically the sign. It's basically this model, Cubana Loss. Basically, she used to be on all the magazines back in the day. See, I can get it on direct side. I got the article up actually. So yeah, a mugshot came up of her. I remember this one this girl as well, because she was like the fucking hit girl, man. Like world star hip hop days, 2009, 2010, basically. And now she basically she fell off. She's a crackhead, man. So it's like a decade basically, and she turned into a fucking crackhead. Looking like Gollum and shit, man. Precious.
That's like Orlando Brown, man. That guy.
Orlando Brown?
That's a Raven.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, fucking smoking hella crap. Doing meth. That's the thing as well. Is being in those circles, it's not all as cracked up to me.
Yep.
That's as the world is now. People are falling in, they're falling into crevices where they're going into the depths of hell already. And that's going to be worse. It ain't going to be bro, when the city's locked down, where's the nigga going to be sneaking in some fucking crystal meth, man? These addicts are going to fucking turn it, they're going to be the start of the zombie apocalypse, man. Them guys can be shooting up on anything.
Yeah. Okay. Let me try to find
So I'll skip down a bit. So verse Isaiah 32 and 9 says, "Rise up, you women that are at ease. Hear my voice. Hear my voice, you careless doers. Give ear unto my speech. Many days and years shall you be troubled, you careless women. For the vintage shall fail, the gathering shall not come." And that's, hey, the reality is of how the world is structured and what, for this current system is being maintained, what's really been established. Because people think this is just how society structure functions, but that's something that's reinforced by Hollywood. Because even when you do period pieces, you go back into the 1600s. There'll be strong independent women walking around who don't need no man. You go into the 1100s, and then it will have strong independent women going to the time of the Greeks, the time of the Romans. Then there's strong independent women. Meanwhile, women being liberated to the extent they are today, that's a brand new thing. That's not something that's really been around. And it's only maintained by what? Mainly through birth control is one of the key ways. Abortion and the pill. Those two things working in tandem.
The main thing is the Lord, the Heavenly Father. He decreed it. I'll quickly read it. Oh, my days on it.
Jeremiah 22.
It's 32. Isaiah
31, 22.
Yeah. Jeremiah 31:22. How long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For the Lord Yahweh hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man.
Yeah. Brand spanking new. That shit ain't even a century old. Real new. And lo and behold, there's a reason the shit has to be brand new. Because the level of destruction that's visited upon society is superhuman.
Brand new as well.
That shit, yeah, there's whole issues that didn't even exist.
I believe we're like 2 generations in, and it's like, issues that have never sprung up before, presenting themselves.
Superhuman, legendary issues, man.
That's why you have what's that word called? Not infant. What's that word? Incels.
Yeah, voluntary celibates.
Yeah. So now you have a new culture. You have young men that are angry.
The dating scene in
Yeah.
general.
Dating scene. Everything's basically been changed. And this is the
Yeah, the dynamics of
what they call it, second wave feminine. Which wave is it?
60s and 70s.
So this would be the third or fourth.
That's the
Fourth wave. Okay, so 90s. Well, 90s is, all of these waves are basically ripple effects nonetheless. You know, they're saying second, but it's a ripple effect. First wave, second wave, third wave, fourth wave, where all of these things have an effect. To the point now, women really, you know, they're not getting what they want out of this, because they're saying that they want to have this, have that, and when they get it, they ain't happy. That's why you have the divorce rates astronomical.
The women's happiness index or whatever it is, the measure of
That's the
happiness.
best, yeah.
That shit you move is that the happiness index or whatever the measure, that thing's been going down non-stop from the 60s, man.
Yeah.
So it's like, but men's has been going up. Men's has been going up. So it's like, women are really out here, all kinds of miserable. And, you know, you have to think why, you know, what the cause of these things. It's you basically unravel, you know, the way things were done for thousands of fucking years,
Which worked to your benefit. Men had to basically cuff you and keep you long term. Whereas now it's like, if you get a man,
also provide.
yeah,
It's like they're, you know, they're having kids, you have to have the house still. They have to deal with you to a certain level, but then you're also, it's you know, bound both ways. Because the guy's got to cover you, but then you don't have liberty to guide the board.
yeah. But then now it's like, if a man has a bachelor pad, a car and some money in his pocket, he's fucking all the girls basically, and leading them, stringing them along, and then having his way. That's it basically. So unless, you know, there's few and far between that kind of fall into that, you know, where some women are happy to deal with have a goal for
And they're accepted.
yeah,
Yeah, accepted.
that's the
But
word.
regardless, the whole scene has been completely destroyed. Because the dynamic of how men and women interact, that's all been thrown in the bin, and a whole new dynamic's been built on top of it. There's complete confusion. Because as far as for, you know, for men try to get what they want, it's a massive confusion. Women, what they want, massive confusion. Everything's confusion. All that comes out of it, what? The wickedness. First thing I was like, how have you got so many of these fucking incidents of like some, you know, kids will be like 11, 13, stop breaking the system. What the fuck's going on there, bro? Then it's a matter of like the whole kind of structure of society, how this information and the way you kind of deal with is explained. But then it's all these families fucking, you know, destroyed and broken as well, man. Then it's kind of got people in dynamics where it's oh, where was I even hanging?
I just left it on the side. I forgot about it.
But yeah, the whole dynamic's been thrown in the bin. Which is then like, you know, you've basically gone and established your own shit, but then, you know, how wise is that function? Complete mess.
I got something. Down to the point.
Here's this verse 11. Tremble, you women that are at ease. Be troubled, you careless ones. Strip you and make you bare. Gird sackcloth upon your loins. They shall lament for the teats, for the pleasant vine, no, for the pleasant fields, for the fruitful vine. Upon the land of my people shall come up thorns and briars, yea, upon all the houses of joy in the dry city. So yeah, they're going to lament for how things work. As it is, a big part of what the appeal of this lifestyle for women is the pleasure-seeking angle. They can, live, Hollywood dreams, where they go out, in the morning they wake up, they go to a cafe with their little dog in a purse. They get to sit there, enjoy the pleasant weather, talk to a few friends, and afterwards be like, okay, go to an art gallery and just, take some pictures, see some sights. They're basically, they're trying to fulfill kind of lifestyle, a dream. But what goes on in reality? That might run for a little while, but then you're gonna have to go and find a job to get enough money to pay for that shit.
Or find a sugar zaddy.
Yeah.
Find a zaddy.
Let some guy's gonna be, dropping you money. That's what we're talking about. If you want the big bucks, you're gonna have to slop, give that sloppy top, man. Or let him bust a nut inside. That's, the whole, the dynamic's a mess.
So it says, you will live to see man-made horrors beyond your comprehension, Tesla. So I don't know how valid this point is, right, as to it being from Tesla, but it's still to the point of that's where it is, right? When you go into the scripture from paid prophets of Babylon, I'll read the scripture the brother has in there. Brothers. 2nd Ezra 24. At that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies, and the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The springs of the fountain shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. Whosoever remaineth from all these that I have told thee shall escape and see my salvation and the end of your world. Alright, so basically that's the time we're in. We're in a time where the time of terrors that are going to be seen upon the earth, it's going to be to the point where many are going to hope they can see through it, alright? But they're going to be caught out there. But remember, it's going to be colored in a way where it seems like there's normalcy still in the background, because it says, Matthew 24, that many shall be given in marriage, eating and drinking, just as in the time of Noah, so shall it be. Many were eating and drinking and giving in marriage, but Noah went into the ark. There's going to be a form of normalcy as to where people believe that, it ain't too bad. Then there's going to be some previous acts committed upon the earth. Right? Even we recently had a young child basically got their finger broken by a robot while playing chess. Right? And no one's really picked up on it. That, there's some, these AI bots, man, they're ready to, they got spirits on them that are ready to, fuck up people, basically. No one ain't sitting there thinking about that, right? And that's where that normalcy bias comes into play. When people get used to movement. And remember going back to the pandemic, we had them saying that we should basically laugh at the death of those that are non-vaccinated, right? Those people that die and they ain't taking the jab, they should be laughed at, basically. So that's creating a level of, evil in the minds of people, whereby they get detached from death. Just to say that you're gonna see some heinous shit going on, but no one ain't really gonna react to it. Alright, so you and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. So basically, the time we're in is going to be great death and destruction upon the earth like never seen before. So we can go down the line. You know what? I'll do this just to bring some light to it.
We went to the
It's about big. Anthropogenic. Right. So this is what it says: a list of wars and anthropogenic disasters by death toll. This is a list of wars and anthropogenic disasters by death toll. The list covers the name of the event, location, and the start and end of each event. Some events may belong in more than one category. In addition, some listed events overlap each other, and in some cases, the death toll from a smaller event is included in one of the larger events or time period which it was part of, right? So there's often large uncertainty about the death tolls. The tables are initially sorted by geometric mean, meaning the square root of the product of the lowest and highest estimate of the cumulative number of deaths. For example, 500 divided by 2,000 equals 1,000. For a lowest estimate of 500 and highest 2,000 deaths since the start of the death or disaster. So these are numbers that are kind of, thrown up in the air. So the first one it goes into, it says war. It says wars, armed conflicts. This section lists all wars and major conflicts in which the highest estimated casualties exceeds 100,000. This includes deaths of both soldiers, civilians, etc. from causes both directly and indirectly caused by the war, which includes combat, disease, famine, massacre, suicide, and genocide. And that's a good point to bring into play, because right now, what did the Lord prophesied in the book of Matthew 24? He said that it basically would be wars and rumors of wars upon the earth, alright? So in wars and rumors of wars, now let's obviously focus on wars, right? You have many things that happen. Good example, right now you got Ukraine and Russia, they've got a skirmish going on down there in the land of Ukraine. What is the byproduct of that war? That warfare. Now you have an issue with the breadbasket of Europe in supplying, food to the Middle East, Africa, Asia, and the majority of the world that they supply. So this is creating what? Inflation, right? But then also they also supply energy into Europe, right? So any resources they have in the market is now being taken off the market because they're in direct conflict with their opposition. And anyone that basically sides with them, maybe a proxy or using them as a proxy, basically they ain't getting any of their resources no more. So that then has implications as to, famines, little skirmishes, different things happening. So all that brings. Go ahead.
Amos 5 and 18. Woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord. To what end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light. As if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him, or went into the house and leaned his hand on a wall and a serpent bit him. Yeah, so just like brother mentioned, when you have conflict go down, it's not just going to be centralized. Okay, you're going to have that one zone where people are going to be shooting each other, shooting artilleries, doing airstrikes and whatnot, and then everything in the area is the only thing affected and nothing else affected.
The world just goes on.
Yeah.
People walk up into the sunset.
Yeah, you can just watch from the left and just be like, oh look, I got him. No, you ain't gonna be. It's gonna be a thing where, there's gonna be casualties. Even when that's why you look at the drone strikes. Everyone was getting onto obesity for the drone strikes because what? Collateral damage. That was the term. When they blew up, collateral damage means blown up women, children, and whatnot, man. You know, the hospitals that got hit, the preschools, the nurseries that got blown up, where, little Abdullahi, when we got his legs blown, his little tiny legs blown away, by a drone strike. That's what that means. So when you have these conflicts, and even what the war, the pestilences and what, illnesses, you might have, if a hospital gets blown up, then a guy might get a little infection, he ain't able to get anything for it, and then that shit means he has to lose his leg, or he drops dead. There's a variety. So you might have to have someone just be there, just be like, look, your leg's gone, fam, you're gonna have to chop it off. He's like, well, I just cut it with fruit. Then as well, the food, the grains are an excellent example. And then what? You might have certain products being developed in that area, technologically wise, then they might not get to where they need to go to. Then that results in things fucking up. That's why you had the chip shortage in like 2020, where you couldn't get, there was a bunch of electronics you couldn't get. There was like washing machines that needed them chips. BMWs needed them. You might, your lawnmower might have needed that shit. The price of all these things went up, then the supply of them got shorted. There was less supply of all these different things. Those things are like knock-on effects. And that's, as the scale of the conflict increases, it's going to happen more and more.
You ready, bro? That's everything's in the scriptures, man. The day of the Lord. This is in conjunction with the day of the Lord. What I read in Daniel, right, about a time like never before. That's the day of the Lord. Right now, we're in what the Lord described in the gospel as the beginning of sorrows. That's how he said, when all these events shall take place, it shall be the beginning of sorrows. So it's a cumulative. Funny, I was actually speaking to someone I know, and he said, yeah, the time is short, but the time could be 20 years. I said, yeah, it could be 20 years. But it said the Lord said he's going to shorten the time. So it won't feel like 20 years. It could be 20, it could be a 20-year period. But then guess what? And I said, what are those 20 years going to be like? Is it going to be, time is moving fast, a lot of shit, like, it's not going to be a 20 years where you want it to be like, okay, yeah, this is cool. No, I've got plenty of time to get. No, it's going to be grievous. We just see what 2 years look like during the course of the pandemic. And I ain't advocating for it to be 20 years. I'm just saying, I'm entertaining what you're saying. As to say, like, you don't want it to be 20 years. It ain't going to be a nice sight. Right? So we're reading on, it says, so World War II. It says, lowest estimate, 70 million. Highest estimate, 118, 3,057, 357,000. Right? The mean basically adding up to just about 90 million, right? Worldwide, started 1939, ended 1945, 6 years one day. Now remember, dealing with World War II, World War I was known as the war to end all wars, the Great War, right? That's how catastrophic it was, because that was the first time where they had the firepower being utilized, and they had all these new inventions that were made during the time of the Industrial Revolution. Was the first time they were presented on a battlefield, all right? So it went from, people frying bloody spears and, using swords and single shot rifles, all that type of stuff. Heavy artillery. We're talking about Gatling gun in hand, all right? Every soldier's got a couple, they can shoot bullets for days. Then they can utilize shells. So the people that were dealing with injuries, casualties, they weren't built for that. So we're saying that's where they had a new thing known as shell shock, right? And you had many people that were fucked up. They were never the same ever again because of all those gun sounds they were hearing in the fucking trenches, man. All they needed to see was a helmet, and they broke out into a fucking tumultuous episode, man. Yeah. Then they had to calm them down, make them relax. That's how previous that war was. And I'm saying, when we read it, World War II was more catastrophic than that. Right? So just when we're dealing with it, we're dealing with World War One, World War II, World War III. You might as well grab a Revelation 8 and 13 and Revelation 11 and 14 to back up the point. The point being is that this is a thing that's it's gonna crescendo. It's building up, right? It's going up to its peak, to hit the threshold, where the Lord is gonna basically come in and set everything in its place. 8 and 13.
Revelation 8 and 13. Now beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet, the three angels which are yet to sound.
Yeah, so that whoa, whoa, whoa that was pronounced by the angel basically was talking about 3 more wars that were to come. Alright? Because the next chapter in Revelation 9th chapter basically goes extensively into World War I and talks about Abaddon. I'm gonna mispronounce his name. Abaddon, alright? Which basically, or beyond the Greek version, which is basically talking about Kaiser Wilhelm, right? It breaks down all the dogfighters, all the different things that pertain to the warfare, and everything that was out, the overspill of it, how it affects the minds of the people, about people seeking death and not being able to find it, all those things of that nature. And then hopefully the people that do survive, that they would basically be the forefathers for the elect to come, right? So there was 3 world wars pronounced, because the word war means destruction. Go ahead, bro.
Revelation 11 and 14. The second war is past. Behold, the third woe cometh quickly.
Yeah, so to the point of what the individual I spoke to said about the third war, you know, having 20, it could be 20 years from now. You know, like, look, it says, when was World War II? World War II was in 1939 to 1945, presently in the year 2020, right? You can see in the last decade, how it was in 2010, even 2012. Really, I want to go back as far as like, really, I want to go back as far as the noughties, right? When you deal with that decade, it was a total different vibration. Even the 90s, the noughties, they're kind of quite similar, where it built up to the point, it's built up to the point of the 10s, right? Where now we're in the time of the 20s, and this shit is fucking crazy, alright? You get people being reprimanded for things they said in the late 2000s, the late noughties, alright? And they can't fly now. So you imagine how, if there's another 20 years, hypothetically speaking, what the fuck are we going to be seeing, man? What are you really going to be dealing with, right? But the point, going back to the scripture, it said the third world coming quickly. So the Third World War is caught in the hills, right? That's why we're seeing right now with the skirmishes between Ukraine and Russia. Now we understand Ukraine is a proxy of who? America, right? The EU. That's why after the strength of that, you have been, I believe they've opened up the application for they want the EU, right? The EU, I believe it is. Yeah. So you seeing them making leaps and bounds to join themselves to the peace. Yeah. The NATO. So what does that mean? The NATO is an abbreviation of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Now that treaty is basically based upon all these different nations coming together underneath America, that basically an attack on one of the nations is an attack on all of the nations. So basically, basically what they're saying is, if Ukraine becomes part of NATO, that means that Russia is declaring war on America and all of those European nations, and they are now going to initiate or retaliate, as they would say, in terms of warfare upon Russia. So that's World War III, all right? It's as simple as that, right? When you go in the history books, what happened with World War II? How was that initiated? By the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, which set up a Mexican standoff all the nations in that little, crevice of Austria, the Kingdom of Austria, Hungary, right? And then it spiraled off the strength of that. World War One. That was going back to the time of imperialism. You basically had everyone had their empires, and Germany was trying to get up in the mix, I believe. They all stepping on each other's toes. But remember, they were all cousins. When you go into the history, you see not Rasputin. His name escaped me, man. Russia. World War One. The three cousins. Yeah, King George, Kaiser Wilhelm, and Tsar Nicholas. They were all related. They all had pictures together. They used to do, family functions. And guess what? Warfare broke out. All right. So this ain't nothing that's far-fetched. It's not unbelievable. We haven't hit the antithesis, the bloody, mountain peak of peace and justice upon earth. If anything, we're at the base of it. We're at the depths of the valley of death, right? And it's just more easier for warfare to happen in these last days. Matthew 24:21. So there shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should be no, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Yeah. Because, hey, the level of conflict is going to be on a whole different scale. Because the key factor is the nuclear missiles, man, nuclear capabilities. When you deal with the Second World War, that ended with, the Manhattan Project came to a head, and you had the execution of it only after America got involved on the Pacific side of World War II. They waved the white flag. They said they don't want to fight. Yeah, I think after the first one. After the first one. I feel really bad. Because I remember before, it was like they were basically not going to look to surrender at all. Because, it's like they've been on losing the war with just, I think, Russia anyway. For a while. They ran out of, after they lost China, it was a bit of a wrap. They didn't have enough resources. But yeah, and them men were fanatics, and were kamikaze in the thing already. But hey, America used to justify saying, that we did the bomb, blah blah blah. But you know what you did? You need to drop the second one. Isaiah 9:5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. So yeah, just had the prior wars, where even World War I, World War II, you had technology developed. You had the aeroplane, the flying vehicles introduced in World War I, and that was made a development. And then you see that pursued further in World War II, vehicles, and then you had even more so what ended with atomic weaponry. We had A-bombs dropped, and then Japan was never the same again, man. Them guys stopped having sex with women, man. Guys are fucked. They've been effeminate, on a different level.
They've been destroyed on the level.
You got some real. That's the samurais. We understand that Jake was up in there because you got a quote that says for you to be a good samurai, you have to have black blood. Black starts to that extent. You even had that. Culture they have even the Judah martial culture anyway. Yeah. Oh yeah, the warlords. that type of
Yeah,
stuff.
like no, all the Nobunaga, all the different, warring states. Warring states, is that what they call it? Warring states. Where they had, them men were warring like no man's business, and that's what they were known for. These guys were tried to, they fucking, somehow managed to take over China. When you just compare the size of the land, like it's actually insane that just fucking happened. Man actually managed to conquer China for some period of time. So that spirit, that shit's been done. Because they weren't even allowed to have an army until 2018 or 2019 or some shit. Like man had to like have multiple years not even having an army where they're allowed to go out externally. And you know, like that's just the whole spirit of the coach has been changed completely, man.
Yeah, bro. So that shows you. Now they're living in bloody, them guys are got dolls and having sex with them, man. And their little pods.
They got that little box.
Yeah, the little box they live in, man.
And then, you know, doing interviews like, yeah, you know, she loves me. I'm like, yeah, they're fucking done out. But hey, them guys have a bone to pick anyway, man. That's why you had man with the sellotape plastic shotgun take out Shinzo Abe, man.
Yeah.
So who knows what the fuck's going on over there, man. But that's just kind of the spirit. I'm like, bro, it's like them men ain't even got guns. Man made his own shotty and just blazed, you know, the former prime minister away. It's like, bro, someone's rolling on Tony Blair when he's giving a speech somewhere in some street and blowing him away. That's wild. But signing in the Times it ain't even that wild. You heard it, you check the news. On the day of the book, you're like, yeah, that's kind of fucked. Then they're laughing, probably making memes about the gun. Then who remembers? Who even cares? There's too much shit going on now. Now's the time where everything's on a heightened level. Everything's been intensified. Daniel 12, verse, well, I'll read this. Daniel 12 and 4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. But yeah, in the time of the end, knowledge shall be increased. Now there's all sorts of people are aware on a much higher level of what's going down, especially with the onset of the internet. That's the irony as well. With the internet, the awareness of what's going on around the world, that's on a much higher level.
Where the information is, where data is basically like you had different generations. You had the Industrial Revolution, where that technology took a whole new kind of mechanical engineering to the forefront. But now we're in a time where the information age, where data is, has the price of gold, basically. They want to know how people think, right? And then the use of having the data and understanding how people operate through the algorithm being utilized on social media, really social media, right? And even engagement with different things in the real world. People sign up with apps to use like restaurants, retail experiences, all this type of stuff. Basically, they're building up a character. Character is a word. Character. Your character profile. That's it. Character profile of you. So then they can build an algorithm around it, and they'll just have a machine, and they can
monetize that.
Monetize it, but
it's also used for what? That's what the FBI, all these different government agencies, they'll use that information to kind of try and predict, guys we should be watching. Because I think if you access
and then even make robots that could, different things that could say guns and stuff.
And so even if you access the dark web, I spoke to a guy at the pub, he said if you access the dark web, then they'll kind of, they'll keep tabs on you to a certain extent. As far as if a guy's going on the dark web, he's looking up kiddie porn, he's buying something illegal, man. That's that's more or less the two only things. You're buying a gun, you're buying some drugs, you're doing some people trafficking. or you know you're involved in some degeneracy. But that's really how these things kind of go. You go on certain websites and then you just be flagged for certain things. You just be flagged, and that's the level of madness. That's the level of control. That's the level of reach that Esau has. And the thing is people only really became aware of it recently because these things have been going on for time. I remember people talk about like internet cookies and how they use them like early 2000s, but people didn't really become like aware of it becoming a thing. People selling it onto like the Facebook Cambridge Analytica thing, where it said, oh, Facebook's been selling everyone's data. But that's why it's like people use things. They're like, how are these guys making money? But then it's selling the profiles. Because that's the key thing. That's why people do studies. That's why I remember going to Mad Men, they used to do like when they were trying to find product research, they'll be like, okay, get the secretaries to try this lipstick and give us feedback. Or they'll get a bunch of mothers in to test things out. They'll get a bunch of kids in, focus groups and whatnot, to get information. Now they'll get like the most genuine form of information. So they'll be like, okay, so what are people between this age and this age browsing in relation to this topic? Or they'll be like, what sports are they looking at? Or what time do they look at these things? Or what kind of clothing are they looking at? What brands are they into? How can we? And then when it comes to selling advertising, that's the kind of information they use. But then as well, it's like developing certain products, certain algorithms. They'll be like, okay, how can we make it so they want to keep coming back to the app? Because that's, hey, let me read this. You gonna say something?
No, yeah, I was gonna go into the warfare part of it. Because basically that's why you got a lot of people. See, they first showed this, and a lot of people, this is what I realized, the generation changed too quick. Now, a lot of people are privy to this information, but it's not at the forefront of their mind. When you have DARPA developing, they show the dog now, but they developed the actual beast, I forgot what they called it, because you had the humanoid robot.
Boston Dynamics,
sorry. They worked with DARPA, right? They did work with DARPA. Yeah. So they had the big one that was like a ball. I remember the old video, like 08, 09, the guy was kicking it, and it would move, and then it would stabilize itself. So it was like big, like it was like the size of a buffalo.
Oh,
no, it was like
the dog one.
No, not the dog. See, even you forgot about it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's on all fours.
It's on all fours. It's the big one. Because they keep showing the dog, and they show the humanoid, the dog one, but they don't. That's my point. But there's one that's even greater than that. If you see that, if you were walking around out here, zombie apocalypse, and you see that shit with some fucking guns on it, some laser beams and some shit, yo, you ain't eating that thing.
Yeah, well, it's like they already showed the dog. Well, I think it was either China.
The dog is light work.
China was before. They stuck a gun on his back.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying light work compared to the one.
Yeah.
So that lets you know.
Either way,
some
it's
shit.
Some AI dog.
No, I'm agreeing. I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying
dog has a
that's
gun on his back.
But I'm saying this is what I'm talking about is like levels compared to that. So that just lets you know, like, yo, like what they got in the artillery, in the whole school.
Yeah. And they're gonna be making metal gear.
Yeah.
Funny, there was. Ezekiel 28 and 3. Ezekiel 28 and 3. Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. With thy wisdom and with thine understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches, and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures. by that great wisdom and by that well, thou art wiser than Daniel. Esau's been able to develop all these different AIs, algorithms, different forms of technology, being able to interact with the world on a much higher level of fidelity than what people were able to do in the ancient.
That one. It's big. It's like it might be like up to like 6 foot. Yeah, you don't remember it.
There's a lot of it's like they get military contracts. That shit's running around Syria somewhere. And ain't no one reporting on that shit. But yeah, with Esau's been able to develop and progress on those things. You know, that guy gave me a nod and a thumbs up when I mentioned that. Because he's, everyone's infatuated with, they're allured by that, the idea of allured by that idea of what that Esau's his greatness, his wisdom, he's able to progress the world to even greater and higher heights.
I'm gonna need to charge my phone.
Where the fucking noise coming from?
Yeah. As you hear that.
No stealth shit.
No, but that's the original development. You don't remember it. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, man. That's the one they don't show. Might have to stand on this side.
It's probably might be military use because some of them it's like goes into military use, you ain't really gonna see it. But the Boston numbers, police were using it.
But that's my point. It's like there's things.
Yeah,
I remember seeing that, but like I said, you don't even remember seeing it. So imagine people that don't even know about it. They're just presenting a dog and a humanoid, and that's it. But they ain't telling you about it. They got other shit on layaway. Imagine what else they have that you don't know. They might have sentinels, man. Like for real. Like some big ass shit you see like fucking 10 foot tall. You ain't fucking with that shit. Reflexes out the fucking, like, out the arse, all type of shit, man. Would dismember you in a heartbeat. Boop, boop, boop. Take your head off last, man.
Moving like that little girl in the big robot, the little girl in Squid Game. The first one where it turns around.
Oh yeah.
People getting length. Read scripture. Yeah. So Ezekiel 28:5 it says, "By thy great wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches." Yeah. So Esau's been able to build money, technology, all these different things through what? Through being able to develop all these different technologies. But hey, that's what's they're things that are being done with a purpose. It says what the wicked was made for the day of evil. That's the same with all these technologies. But I read what Isaiah 9:5 said that this will be a burning fuel of fire. Ain't gonna be a war on the same kind of scale as the prior ones. You're gonna have levels of technology being pushed out that haven't been seen before, man. And that's the same thing with the World Wars previously, where some new form of technology came in. It's going to be the same thing with the Third World War. Then it's going to be what? The nukes. Because the Cold War, that was kind of where the nukes shine, but it was what? That mutually assured destruction, kind of keeping the edge. But now you got what? Russia's got the hypersonic missile, where they're going to be able to do a first strike, and that was kind of where if there was a capability of that, then it's like, okay, someone's gonna have to make a move, because otherwise we're just gonna get caught out there.
White guy.
Black fries.
This is black fry, but now
Black fries is that way.
yeah, I'm coming from the same way.
Oh,
This
okay.
look, yeah, look for this place. Look. Yeah, come up on the phone.
Funny name for a street. White room. Yeah. So you're gonna, the level of conflict is gonna be different, and that's something that people are, trying to avoid. And that's why even Iran having nuclear capabilities, that gets people antsy, because they're thinking like, oh, these guys can do a madness. But hey, that's what Russia's there for. To be a guard of them. And for the same thing.
But that's gone into the Carmanian, Ethiopian, and more coming up. That's in second up to 16. These prophecies are coming to pass, man. They're all working in coalition with one another, and it's by the word grace of the Heavenly Father that these things are happening. So, I had an article just building on the atrocities. So it says, this is from History of Yesterday. An article says, here are 7 bloody events that made the 20th century so violent. How genocide and dehumanization. There's an irony surrounding the 20th century. Believe it or not, it began with a strong sense of hope and promise. That's what's quiet. So, ironic, innit? To say the same with the 21st century. The society's woes, even the utopia. Having the benefit of hindsight, we now know that this is nightmare in most cases.
See, utopia's no place. That's why it's called a utopia, because it's a no place. And that really ties in with Esau's blessing. It's funny, I was watching a video on the way. It's kind of talking about the Avatar movie and how it kind of a simple representation of like what went down when Esau came over to the Americas. And I was meditating on what he's saying. It was more or less kind of trying to get leeway for what Esau did what he did. But hey, that's the thing. Even with that, it's still, that's like with the so-called justification is, it's meant to be for a better world. But Esau's blessing was a sword. That's the means by which he was going to do anything, by which he was going to even attain his own freedom, was what? Through the sword. So, as such, the only way to do things is by killing, death and destruction. So then, what can really be built on top of that? But that's why people have the viewpoint of, it's man's nature, it's the destroying humans. I'm like, nigga, you're talking about in the times of Esau and Esau's blessing. Because as far as war is a thing that goes down to whack. The Lord is a man of war. That's how he gets down. But then it's what Esau said. That's why everyone's in the thing where, you need to go and massacre people. That's the only way things can be done. That's because that's how the only way these subjects is done. And he's had the ball. It's been his little season. But hey, that's why the kingdom is. That's where peace is gonna
Many
make
technical classes. Writings on the wall, basically. And we're interpreting all the things and we know what's going on. That's why in any kingdom, if the prophets arose, where you knew you was in trouble. And I was saying that our people knew more than anyone, right? They when Samuel came to a town, they said, come in peaceable. They knew that, yo, the prophet coming in to that town where he's got some words for you. The whole people is good. Let me read on. It says, the 20th century was riddled with horrific activities like vicious total wars, a proliferation of concentration, death camps, ethnic fucking gulag, man. Was that in the 19th century? It was in the 20th century, sorry. 1900s. Yeah. The fucking gulag. Yeah, it was on the Starlink. It would have been a bit later. Yeah, people being born into the gulag, where, you know what that is? That's a place where it's no man's land. You have women pairing up with men for survival. They'll get breeded up by them, and they'll see people getting their brains blown out on the regular, bludgeoned to death, stabbed to death. And we're talking about levels of violence that couldn't be comprehended in this day and age. Right, especially in the Western world. So let me read on. So it said, a proliferation of concentration death camps, ethnic cleansing, and industrialized mass murder. These atrocities were so prevalent that their death toll was over 210 million by the century's end. Here are 7 events that were crucial for the unforgivable slaughter of life listed chronologically. The Armenian genocide from 1940 to 1950, death toll around 1.5 million deaths. Right? The Armenian genocide was a campaign of deportation and mass killing of Armenians in Turkey. These attacks were initiated by the Young Turk government, who had taken control of the Ottoman Empire during the First World War, 1940 to 1918. Since the campaign specifically targeted Armenians, most considered it to be genocide, despite objections from the Turkish government. This internal conflict only worsened in 1915 during the Ottoman Battle of Sarıkamış against the Russians. The battle became the worst Ottoman defeat of the entire war because of the harsh conditions and terrible tactical leadership. However, the Young Turk government chose to blame this loss on the Armenian treachery. All the Armenian and any non-Muslim soldiers in their army were immediately relocated to labor battalions. These disarmed Armenian soldiers were eventually murdered by Ottoman troops. Became the first victims of the Armenian genocide. After this, mass killing was carried out in several Armenian villages on the Russian border. Women and children were taken on death marches. Armenians were similarly shot, burned, and drowned in rivers. Yes, that's yep. Stalin's gulags, 1922 to 1953. So we're talking about 31 years of this shit. Let's read it. Death toll as high as 20 million deaths. One creation of depravity under Joseph Stalin was the Gulag. This was a network of forced labor camps that brought the oppressive outlook of the Soviet Union to life. These notorious, terrifying prisons held millions of people during their existence. At its peak, the Gulag system was comprised of hundreds of these labor camps each containing 2,000 to 10,000 prisoners. To state that conditions are these prisons were inhumane is a massive underestimate. Prisoners were forced to work 14-hour days, and they did so in harsh weather. Many of them died of disease, starvation, or just plain exhaustion. Now, so you imagine people who worked to death. They basically were doing a 14-hour shift. They came back, they slept. And really, after the 14 hours, them 10 hours of rest was active, man. We're talking about gulag conditions. People were ready to rob, steal, and kill. So you weren't just lying down and like you had a comfort of like, this is my bed and all that. They had people killing each other in those sleeping quarters. So there weren't no real rest or respite, should I say. So once they went, they done their little sleep and they came back to doing their duty, servitude for 14 hours, they'll be at work and they'll just kill over and die from exhaustion. Right? Give up the ghost. You got something?
Is it not on the topic? Let me just well,
Let me read the last one then.
yeah, no, it's not on the topic.
Alright. So it says, and some were openly executed, many froze to death. It is estimated that some 20 million people perished in Stalin's labor camps. In addition to the harsh conditions, the prisons were incredibly overcrowded. Violence was a daily occurrence among prisoners, see? Both prison populations were a blend of political prisoners and hardened prison criminals. So you can imagine the dynamic that was at play when they went to rest after that rigorous labor. Yeah, you got something?
Second beat of free. We start with actually no. Second beat of 2 in fact, and start with verse 4. So it says, "For if the Most High spared not the angels of sin, but cast them down to hell and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment, and spared not the old world, but saved Noah the 8th person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly, and turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, making them an ensample unto those who should live ungodly, and delivered just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversations of wicked, for that righteous man dwelling among them, and in seeing and hearing vex his righteous soul from day to day with their unlawful deeds. And the Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptation, and reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished." So, and that's something where it's a matter of what? So the Most High knows how to reserve the unjust.
There is a party here, you know?
To reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished. And that's the thing. These scenarios, these are different forms of hell that just been reserved for people. As far as it's like what went down in Russia, I think overall, even if you more than just the gulags, the general the general amount of people that died, it was in the hundreds of millions, I believe, over the time of it wasn't called the Great Leap Forward. I can't remember. There was under Stalin where it was basically modernized, where they built the factories, they industrialized farming and whatnot. There was just hella people getting massacred on a mass scale. And that happened all over the place, various different places where, you know, someone was put in power, they were able to execute legendary amounts of death and destruction upon people. And now it's, you know, it's people talk about how like, oh, you know, we're in a time of peace, but these things are going to be done again on a greater scale, shielded from anything that's going down.
Yeah.
Because in reality, it's someone's been living in Syria, or even the West Bank is a good example. Because them man, when you go back to the agreement that was made, the two-state agreement was like, I think the 40s in the state of Israel, where it was in the land where they're meant to make it. So okay, this part's going to be for the Palestinians, this part will be, you know, for the state of Israel, the Israelis. That, you know, went in the bin swiftly after, and they've more or less just been encroaching on those split lands where they've been taking more and more. And that's why it's like, what, the West Bank, these men, they're saying like, oh, according to this agreement we should have it, but them man have just been getting blown up, man. Them man have been getting drone struck, them man have been getting fucking sniped, just like, what's her face, the reporter, where she just got sniped in the chest. She got taken out. She was there reporting news with a press vest on. That didn't mean shit, man, just lenged her. And then kept shooting. You know, that's how wild it is. But that's the thing. These things are still going down. I remember it was 2013, maybe 2014, when they had Boko Haram. They're talking about Nigeria, Boko Haram. They're going around kidnapping the daughters. Them man has still been doing that to this day. But it just ain't been reported in the news. Everyone, you know, you had a bunch of white women on Twitter tweeting about give back, you know, give back the women. They didn't give a shit. But that's the thing, it's a matter of awareness. Because a lot of it's like child labour. People talk about how back in Victorian times, they talk about back in Victorian times how you would kid chimney sweeps. You'd have kids in chimney sweep, you'd send them down the chimney, they'll fucking their lungs up, they'll be dying when they're like 18 and shit. Because, you know, they'll be crawling around in soot. But now it's that shit still goes on in certain parts of the world, no one cares. Like sweatshops for certain articles of clothing, certain products that are being made and whatnot. These things still run, but because people, you know, people are coming and they're like, no, look, I've got an electric car. Look, I drive a Tesla. I've evened out my carbon footprint. I'm negating my... Okay, you even out your carbon footprint, you know, using the deaths of those children or crafting your things. So it's, you know, people are disconnected from the reality of what goes down. That's why even this, you know, they say, oh, you know, you should become vegan. You don't have the right. I'm like, bro, what even are the conditions of where that farming's going down? You might have fucking 3-year-olds running around grabbing your little soybeans for your soy latte, you prick. You know, I think you're getting paid minimum wage for them fucking soybeans, mate. You know, it's like, oh, I want a cashew nut, an almond lot. Nigga, where them almonds coming from, bro?
And they will say they're sourced through, what's that organization?
Oh,
What was that saying?
not the rainforest.
Fair trade.
Fair trade.
Fair trade.
There's fair trade bananas and shit like that. There's all these different organizations they do, which they might meet a certain level. They might, you know, it's like, okay, we sure X, Y, Z gets done. But in reality, a lot of things is like, the government might say that that's what they're doing, but that ain't what's going down. And they'll be aware, and they'll be like, well, it's cheap, so who gives a shit?
Hey, a good example that we can utilize for our eyes, they said they're going to stop, you know, the use of plastic bags. But then in reality, what happened? They just monetized it. They weren't really what they said it was. So they flipped it. What should have happened is they should have said that we need to use paper bags by law. They should have made that mandatory. Right? When I see these economically sourced or eco-friendly sourced paper bags. You know what I mean? You know, old trees or yeah. I think that's just sturdy as fuck. But then the thing is even if everyone switches to bamboo, then you know the bamboo's gonna stop fucking running out.
Yeah.
The part of the issue
You'd
is
have to make farms that are dedicated to, you know,
but then a big part of it is what? Besides everything will be like one company, one big company just providing everything for the world. Where they're trying to just have every complete control over the market so they can then set their price whatever they like, so they can make as much profit as they like.
Yeah.
But then that's part of the issue. Because you need, if you can actually make it sustainable, you need more on a smaller scale. Like localized, you might just do each area has its own provider of one or two things. Just like you'd have the local smithy back in the day, you know, the local what you call it? The local bar, there would have been a bunch of things localized so it'd be, you know, more manageable, more sustainable. You don't fucking having to worry about, okay, we need enough beer, you know, for 20 cities to fucking drink. But that's industrialization flip that. Because that's essentially what industrialization is. Centralize all that production to increase the quality. But then that's microbreweries, smaller scale things are now just being done in this is a thing that's in vogue. Just as a thing like, well, you know, we'll kind of do it for fun. But then what? In you know, in reality, you know, should everything be some colossal super thing? No, but that's Esau's dream. You got more than
I was going to read the scripture. Proverbs 16:4. The Lord had made all things for himself, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil. So right now, this is why, you know, reading about the atrocity, they said in the 20th century was one of the bloodiest years ever. Alright? Now it's only to be what? Preceded by this time of 20th century. Sorry, the 21st century. Wait, hold on. 20th, yeah, that's what I'm bugging. You know what it is? Like we think 1900s was the 20th century. 2000s is the 21st. I always get confused sometimes. But the point being is that, yo, Lord said that this is the time of the beginning of sorrows, right? A time like never before. So now when you go back into yesteryear, or the yesterday century, and you see the atrocities that were committed during that time, you understand that the time we're in is a crazy time that we're heading into.
for it now do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was reading the point of reading, just to let it make you understand the grievousness of things that are going to happen in this time that we are living in, right? Now, and that's why I read that scripture, right? That basically Esau, I'll read it again actually. It says Proverbs 16:4, the Lord Yahweh have made all things for himself. Yeah, all things are created for the Heavenly Father's purpose. He is the God of knowledge, right? Power of knowledge. And he basically deems and sanctifies things to happen. Remember in the book of Matthew, the Lord spoke of basically not a dove would basically die unless the Heavenly Father sanctified it. Alright? So that's how much reign he has within, you know, everything that happens upon the earth. So let's read on. It says, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil. So he basically made this man Esau Edom for the day of evil. Alright? So let me read this. You got something?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
So Genesis 27, and start from 38. Esau said unto his father, "Hast thou but one blessing, my father?
Read that. That's the spirit.
Bless me, even me also, O my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, "Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And
by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have dominion, that thou shalt break the yoke from off thy neck. But yeah, the sword's the means by which Esau has, achieved anything. And that's how, if he gets the dominion, that's how he can break the yoke of having to serve Israel off his neck. And that's, hey, you can see it's been utilized. The sword's been developed to what, the gun, the artillery strike, the carpet bomb. There's a variety a variety of means by which that sword is, the form is taken. But hey, it's heavily been utilized. That's why weaponry is one of the key things Esau monetized. With the US, their military budget is like the combination of the next 5 or 6 countries down the list. That combined brings up how much the US spends on their military. So you can see that's still vital and core part of their identity, man. That's why you still have the Second Amendment. They still have it where what? Listen,
Something flames, isn't it?
their guns are a core part of how they core part of their identity and how they get down. And that's something that's what is utilized. It's brought against the other nations.
So it's Revelation 6:4. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat to take peace from the earth. Now the red horse was talking about the fourth white man, right? And all of the so-called white race, right, who were known as Edomites, right, were led by the man, right, taught banking finance, the elite, all right, and power was given unto him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. So that's use. It's use within this world is to remove peace. Now, if you remove peace, what are you providing in this place? War, all right, because we know everything is binary in this earth. The Heavenly Father made everything 2 and 2. So if there's no peace, guess what? It's warfare, all right? And that's what he came with, and that's why the brother read it about his blessing. So it says, that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword, all right? So let me read this. It's the book of Psalm 17:13. Arise, O Lord, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is our sword. Alright? So the wicked, right? Job 9:24 tells you, earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Who is covering the face of the judgment, wearing the wicked? Right? The man that has control over the earth right now is so well, he's so Edom. Right? And he's basically the sword of the Heavenly Father. That's why he was given that blessing. Alright? From men, verse 14, from men which are thy hand, O Lord Yahweh, from men of the world, which have their portion in this life, whose belly thou fillest with thy hid treasure, they are full of children and leave the rest of their substance to their babes. Alright?
So that they have rule over the earth. Isaiah 14 and start from 11. It says, thy pomp is brought down to the grave. Actually, no. So let's start. 16. It says, they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed cities thereof, that opened not the house of the prisoners? In them gulags. I think a lot of them, it said they were political prisoners and prisoners of war. I think a lot of them didn't get into stolen guys. Well, even like those people that were taken like the World War, they didn't get exchanged until like a deal got made. So there were people in there where you know you're a prisoner of war. You're like, okay, I'm going to be exchanged for. These men are working you until you fucking drop dead. You get to see your family and shit, man. Which is that's how wild that shit was getting. But you know, these are the things that's how Esau was done, and that's the age he's made. That's why everyone now is convinced that if Esau's, because of how Esau rules, the only way you can kind of operate and get down in the society is you're just gonna have to go out and massacre some people. That's how you're gonna have to kind of direct yourself. That's the only way anything's gonna be accomplished or achieved. It says, all the kings of the nations, even all of them lie in glory, every one in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet. Yeah, so all that he's accomplished, all the paradigms that he basically set up, it's going to be completely disregarded. Everyone's going to be looking like, yo, this guy was really out here, you know, like the ultimate terror on the earth.
Yeah.
Because in reality, it's like, what? All of that is, hey, it's not really as formidable as it appears. Because why? It's basically propped up through the spirit of Yahweh Shemi Al-Shad. But hey, that's the reality of how it's going to be regarded in the long run. Because as now, it's something that's honored. But then there's a lot of things now that are being honored. Have no business being honored, man.
Yeah.
Degeneracy is our all-time high at the pinnacle of what's lauded, what's applauded by society. And in reality, like it's just degeneracy. It's gonna come from mental fucking illness and shit. Yes, sir? No. One more was gonna get. What was it?
For second Edges 1 and 9. Sorry. First Maccabees 1 and 9. Actually, I'll start from verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. Alright? Alexander that's being spoken of was Alexander who this the so-called white man called the Great. Alright? But when you really delve into his history, there's nothing great about it. Alright? But he is mentioned in the Bible. Alright? Verse 8. And his servants bear rule every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evil was multiplied upon the earth. Alright? So the point being is that you have generals, underlings, Lacenaeus, Cassandra, Ptolemy, Felicius, which basically took up, bared up his mantle, splitting the kingdom between themselves. And they had a lineage that played out from all of them, right? And what Alexander set, basically plowed the field for them to take seed in, take root in, right? But during the duration of their rule, what happened is that evils were multiplied upon the earth. That was a time of great wickedness being prevalent upon the earth, all right? So now when you deal with the society we live in today, right? They say civilization started with the Greeks. Now, let's talk about some of the civilization that started with the Greeks, man. Pedestry, all right? Pedestry was a big thing during, if you go into the history and you look and you delve into pedestry in the time of the Greeks, you understand that that was a real thing that was part of the functioning society. or the civilization, shall I say. All right? And now they're trying to bring that back with vengeance. That's why they're doing the whole thing where love is love as a big campaign that everyone's taking hold of. All right? Now, if you say love is love, there is no end to where that can go. Love is, that means a man could love a little boy, and you can't say nothing because they'll just say, well, love is love. The government can come and say, I love your children. I want to take. You can't say nothing, right? Why? And that's why you have this thing that's going on right now. That's been going on for the past few years, dealing with basically people having sex change. Little children that ain't allowed to smoke, ain't allowed to vote, ain't allowed to bloody, get married, but somehow they have, they have some responsibility over their sexual orientation by way of the government, right? That shows you that, this is real degeneracy going on. But let me read what the scripture says again, because you'll see that it's just time, there's nothing new under the sun. It's just a representative. It's like history repeating itself, okay? So in fact, let me start from, I'll read from verse 1 down actually. Verse Maccabees 1:1, and it happened after Alexander the son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, which is known today as Shittim, is known today as what? Cyprus. Alright? Now the reason why we have all these new names to these different countries is down to what? When the so-called white man came into rule, he basically renamed everything according to his names. That's also in the Bible. That's a prophecy that was fulfilled. As smeared Darius, the king of the Persians and the Medes, they reigned in his stead, the first over Greece, and made many wars and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. His heart is talking about his mind, right? His mind become very prideful, and he thought he was more than what he really was. Alright? Verse 4, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honourable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them, so that he would, while he was yet alive, and Alexander reigned 12 years, then died. And his servants bare rule everyone in his place, and after his death they all put crowns upon themselves, so did their sons after them. Many years evil were multiplied upon the earth, right? The basic evil were multiplied upon the earth. He makes that wickedness become prevalent upon the earth, right? Yeah. So Revelation 17, we might have read it before. Revelation 17:15. Okay, it says, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So yeah, you have allies, those that
were working with the war, they're gonna what? They're gonna come together. Because, hey, we're going into it. The means by which Esau has gained his rule and maintained it, it's completely, hey, it's something that as now, everyone's been basically like Jedi mind trick into thinking like, oh, well, you know, that's how things run. But then what? In reality, everyone's going to look at for where it is. Because the thing is now, is Esau's held the power for the what? So everyone's kind of, Esau's held the power for a little while. So now everyone's basically what? Caught up and following after his mindset, his justifications. And he's essentially set up a mindset where what? It's everyone's looking at things like, well, you know, that's just what you have to do. Because why? It's like, how can you really come up against Esau? That's really the main thing. Everyone's looking at it like, they're just looking like, okay, this guy's got nukes, this guy's got aircraft carriers, you know, he's got missiles, he's got planes, he's got all this shit. Like, how are we meant to come against him? But the way that that's going to be done is through the Spirit first off. And anyway, it's all those things that he's got. It's not something that happened because he was. It's not something that he's got because he was so supreme, he was so righteous, he was so mighty. It's because the whip was made for the day of evil. He's got a job to do, got a role to play, and those things come part and parcel with that role. And that's going to become clear. That's why it's going to be what? So I'll read this. What was it? Hosea 1. And Hosea 1 and 10. It says, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of power. So it's going to be known, it's going to be made clear to all who the sons of the living power are. It's going to be known who, the ultimate power over the earth is dealing with, who he's chosen on, and the level that he's going to put them on. Because that's as far now, that's the method, that's the manner of how people are looking at Esau right now. They're looking at him like he's the one that's been chosen, anointed on every level to do everything, man. But hey, the reality is, the scales are going to fall from the eyes of the people, and they're going to have to reveal to them the truth. So I think that a bit more. So back in Revelation 17 and 17 it says, for the Most High have put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, unto the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. But yeah, all these nations now, even they are working with America, working in their favor, propping them up. Working in favor, propping them up. They're all working what? Until the time is when the Lord's going to have them, where they flip them. Because they're basically what? Accomplishing the word of Yahweh Shem transform. All those that are working with America, they're going to be looking at them like, hold up, why are we even putting up with this shit? Why are we even maintaining the system? They ain't even getting so much. But then as well, they're still going to weak the merchants and whatnot, those that are making money, those that are living that good life, they're going to be weakened because why? They're losing access to that.
All right. First Thessalonians 5:1. But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. Ye are the children of the light. Ye are the children of the light, and the children of the day. We're not of the night nor of darkness. All right, that's why we're waiting for Yahweh Shai, the morning star to rise up in us. All right, because the Lord Yahweh Shai is what likened unto it. All right, but the day is gonna come when the Lord makes his arrival on the scene. Right now we're in the night. We have the light of the Lord, which is basically allowing us to see through the darkness.